Did you know that in the past decade, the number of short-term rentals on platforms like Airbnb has grown over by 500%? It's an insane number. But what's even more shocking is the potential collapse of this industry that no one saw coming. Imagine a time not too long ago when people usually stayed in hotels. But then, something extraordinary happened. It all started in 2007 when two guys, Brian and Joe, needed some extra cash. They put air mattresses in their living room and let people stay overnight for conferences. That's where the name Airbnb came from, Air Bed and Breakfast. Their idea really worked well, and they decided to turn it into a real business. That's when they created a website where everyday people could let travelers stay in their homes. And fortunately for them, it really took off. That's because, you see, people love the idea of having a home away from home. And that was exactly the spot Airbnb targeted. With Airbnb, travelers could rent out an entire house and do what they wanted without having to face the strict rules that hotels normally had. Hosts also liked the idea because it meant they could earn some extra money on the side. It turned into a win-win situation for everyone. Airbnb grew so fast that it became the superstar of the travel industry. What started as a side hustle turned into a conglomerate worth over a whopping $13 billion in just a decade after its founding. People from all over the world were using it. It felt like a revolution, and people were excited to try something that was new and different in the world of travel. As time passed, Airbnb upgraded their platform and added new features like experiences where you could do fun activities with locals and plus for fancier stays. They made their platform easier to use, which brought on even more hosts and travelers alike. Airbnb didn't just change how we travel, but it also changed how people interacted with each other when going on trips and vacations. It was the place for all sorts of vacationing events. Whether you were enjoying a family getaway or going on an adventure alone, Airbnb had something for everyone. Therefore, it wasn't surprising that by 2011, Airbnb was booking more than 1 million nights per month. It became a game changer in the travel industry, and people all around the world started using it. For travelers, it was like finding a unique place to stay, often cheaper than hotels. You get to feel like a local in a new neighborhood. It's like having your own personal retreat, with options ranging from cozy apartments to full-on villas. As for the hosts, it was a chance for them to earn extra income by renting out their spare rooms for guests. They gotta make the rules and could decide when they wanted to share their homes. However, as Airbnb became bigger, some of its underlying issues became more noticeable as well. At first, the neighborhoods became more crowded and expensive. Since Airbnb was cheaper and had many options, more folks wanted to use it, especially in popular locations. This caused homes in those areas to become overcrowded and rent to skyrocket, making it hard for local folks to find an affordable place to live. On top of that, because Airbnb attracted so many tourists, local businesses like restaurants and shops started charging more, because they knew tourists will be willing to pay for it. Therefore, everyday things got more expensive in those areas as well. Some people even bought homes just for the sole purpose of renting it out on Airbnb. This practice has contributed to a housing shortage in many areas, driving up property prices and making it increasingly challenging for local residents to find affordable homes. In some cases, entire neighborhoods have transformed into open spaces dominated by vacation rentals, leaving communities with fewer options for stable housing. As these property owners prioritize short-term rentals to cater to tourists and travelers, the supply of houses for permanent residences continues to dwindle. Since Airbnb didn't have many government regulations early on, it meant they could operate freely with little to no restrictions. This led to more problems happening, because Airbnb was new and had a different way of doing things. Governments had a hard time figuring out how they should deal with it, since finding a solution could take years. However, fast forward to today, governments and Airbnb are working together to make new rules as they aim to strike a balance between the economic benefits of short-term rentals and the need for stable housing options. All around the world, cities like San Francisco, Paris, and Tokyo have made some rules for short-term rentals like those on Airbnb. These rules might be different in each place, but they often ask hosts to follow certain guidelines, register their rentals, and limit how many days they can rent their places. With all these new regulations coming into place, Hosts are slowly starting to consider if doing Airbnb really is worth it in this day and age. Furthermore, in 2023, the Federal Reserve has been making headlines by continuously raising interest rates. By doing this, it makes homes more expensive to buy for people hosting them while simultaneously making rent more expensive for the people wanting to live in them. Thus, with the cost going up on both sides, hosts of Airbnb are feeling an increasing pressure to sell their homes as the supply of rentals outpaces demand. By doing this, governments hope to keep neighborhoods safe, prioritize safety, and make sure there is a sustainable supply of homes for its long-term residents. Another unexpected turn of events that hit Airbnb hard was the COVID-19 pandemic. When COVID-19 happened, it caused a ripple effect throughout the housing market. Airbnb, like many businesses, faced a major setback during the pandemic. Travel restrictions and safety concerns led to a significant drop in bookings, impacting their revenue, essentially shutting down the entire market for over 6 months. This was a big problem for Airbnb. They had to borrow a lot of money to keep their business running. Think of it as your savings account. One day, your car breaks down, and since you don't have enough money to get it fixed, you have to borrow from your parents, only to find out afterwards that you're in an even worse situation than before. Unfortunately, Airbnb even had to sell parts of their company to raise more money. Only then did they have enough money to pay their bills and keep their business running. However, after doing all this, the value of Airbnb tanked as it started drowning in debt. In 2017, Airbnb's evaluation went from an estimated $31 billion to less than $18 billion. That's over a 40% drop. This money problem was one of the major issues Airbnb had to solve in order to keep their business going. They had to figure out smarter ways to manage their money or risk shutting down. On top of that, Airbnb also faced heavy industry competition. Because Airbnb had such astounding success, many other big companies started doing the same thing, hoping to take more market share. So, besides the pandemic and money problems, Airbnb also had to deal with these other companies trying to do the same thing as them. This makes a whole freaking up and down ride for Airbnb. One such example of this is Booking.com. Similar to how Airbnb offers rooms for travelers to rent, Booking.com does as well. But where they differ is how they treat their users. Airbnb charges from both hosts and guests, while Booking.com favors the guest and only charges from the hosts. By doing this, Booking.com has emerged as a strong contender in the field of online travel. It's like a giant online store for accommodations, offering a wide array of unique features that set it apart from Airbnb. You can think of Booking.com as a place with lots of choices. It's not just about unique vacation rentals like Airbnb. It also has many different kinds of places to stay, like hotels and apartments. On top of that, when you visit their website, it's incredibly user-friendly, like a very smooth road, making your journey of finding a place to stay feel like a breeze to get through. Although Airbnb's website is also user-friendly, it, however, requires a lot more time to explore each option, such as going through the property reviews and interacting with hosts, which further adds to the hassle of finding a quick overnight stay. In terms of convenience, Booking.com offers a much more direct and simplified approach. This caused Airbnb to lose some of its customer base as they went with a more straightforward and hassle-free option. In addition, another new player that recently emerged was Expedia. You have probably seen their ads all over YouTube, and unlike the previous two, Expedia focuses on helping to plan your entire trip. It's like having a super travel assistant, one that organizes your flights, finds you great places to stay, and even helps you rent a car if you need one. It's basically a one-stop shop for all your travel needs. Expedia goes the extra mile by offering a complete and well-organized travel experience from start to finish. So, while Airbnb is all about accommodations, Expedia is like your travel buddy who takes care of everything for your journey. All these differences between Airbnb and Expedia can have a big impact on a person's decision when planning a trip. With a seamless and hassle-free experience offered by these new competitors, Airbnb is slowly starting to lose its dominance that it once had in the short-term rental industry. As we look into the future of Airbnb, we see a landscape that was once filled with endless opportunities slowly become more crowded as more and more competitors decide to toss their hat into the game of short-term rentals. Furthermore, rules and regulations are changing as governments try to find the right ways to regulate companies like Airbnb without causing negative impacts on the housing market. However, it's best to note that potential challenges are lurking on the horizon. In certain places, stricter rules may come into play, while economic hardships, along with health and safety concerns, could also impact Airbnb's popularity. The way people travel may change. Areas that are already crowded may become even more crowded as environmental concerns become more critical. Additionally, the prices of homes might rise, which could cause some hosts to leave Airbnb. So, as we look into the future, it is clear that short-term rentals no longer have the free reign and rapid success as it had in its beginnings. However, only time will tell if Airbnb will be able to adapt to these new challenges as changing trends continue to shape what happens next. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to click that subscribe button, like this video, and let us know in the comments below what you would like to see next. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you in the next one.